With the growing interest in options trading, I wanted to take the time to make sure that newer traders understood exactly what an option is and what it means to buy one and own one. Okay, there's a lot of confusion to me. You hear the word options a lot, but I don't think many new people really understand what they are. And whenever you learn something new, you always need to understand what it is you're doing. Awareness is and always will be your greatest strength as a trader. And if you ask me, awareness will always be one of your greatest strengths as a person. So, without further ado, let me try to answer this question as best I can because it is very important for those of you starting out. What do you actually own when you buy an option? We know that when you buy a stock, you own shares in that company. You could buy Google stock, you could buy Apple stock, and you could say you are a shareholder of Apple. When you buy gold, you own a yellow metal that you can physically hold and touch, okay? When you go to the grocery store and buy groceries, you own those items and you can eat them. They are yours. But what do you actually own when you own an option? When you buy an option, you are simply purchasing the right to own the underlying stock at a fixed price by a certain time. So, the only thing you own when you own an option is the right to own that something. Yes, it can be confusing, but that's the simplest way to put it. Okay? Now, the price you pay for that right is known as premium. The price of the right to purchase is known as premium. That's this part here, purchasing the right to own. That's premium. The fixed price, okay, right here, is known as the strike price. The certain time is the expiration date. Take Apple, for instance. You pay a premium to own Apple at a particular strike price by a particular expiration date. Said another way, in exchange for a premium paid now, you can purchase the right to own a stock at a later date. So in exchange for a premium paid, you can purchase the right to own a stock at a later date today. You can pay a premium on Apple right now and own the right to own Apple later without actually owning the stock itself. And that is called owning the option. The name itself kind of says what it is. It gives you an option to own it later. Okay? Let's get into some analogies. This is like saying I am willing to spend $5,000, which would be the premium, right here and now for the right to own a $15,000, that would be the strike price, car 2 months from now. That would be the expiration date. You are willing to spend $5,000 right here and now for the right to own a $15,000 car 2 months from now. Let's take the Tesla models, for example. Tesla Motors, new electric car company, many of their cars have limited supply and there are waiting lists. So say, for instance, you wanted to pay $5,000 to end up on that waiting list, and what that would do by paying $5,000 is you would be guaranteed to pay the retail price of $15,000 for that car when it finally comes out, which is 2 months from now. Why do you have to pay the $5,000? Because you're guaranteeing yourself the right to own it at $15,000, regardless of what goes on over the next 2 months from the time you actually can have the car. So this can be good and bad. Let's examine some of the scenarios. The car can just get rave reviews. It can be the best seller of the season. causing the retail price of $15,000 to actually move higher. But remember, you're locked in at $15,000 because you paid $5,000 for the right to own it at $15,000, and that $15,000 strike price cannot change. That is what you own the right to. Or the car can receive bad press, say for safety issues, causing the retail price to move lower. And again, that would mean this $15,000, you are stuck at that $15,000 price. That's what you have to pay 2 months from now, regardless of if over the next 2 months they actually end up dropping the price down to $10,000. They have you on the hook at $15,000. That's the strike price. That's what you agreed to. That's what your right was. Or the car can receive no negative press and just have average sales, causing the value of the car to remain relatively unchanged. In stock terms, scenario 1 would be the equivalent to a stock rising, scenario 2 is the equivalent to a stock falling, scenario 3 is equivalent to a stock remaining flat. Regardless of the scenario that plays out though, you do not physically own the car at this time right now. All you have risked in theory is $5,000 because that's the premium you paid. Okay? Now, should you choose to exercise your right to own it, now you'd be risking an additional $15,000. But right now we're focusing on the premium, which is $5,000. However, depending on which scenario that plays out, the $5,000 you paid for the right to own, get that term stuck in your head because you're going to hear it a lot, the $5,000 you paid for the right to own that car at a later date will be affected. Why? Well, let's say the value of the car moves higher. Okay? You may then be able to sell the right to own at that later date, since that is what you actually purchased, at a value that is greater than $5,000 to someone else who wants to own that same right. Sticking with Tesla, for example. You paid the $5,000 to get on the waiting list. Rave reviews are coming out on it. The car is not actually going to be released for another month. The retail price, there's rumors that it's going to get jacked up to $30,000 from $15,000 because demand is so good. You paid only $5,000 for the right to own it at $15,000. Now Jeff comes along and he says, man, I got to have this car, but I don't want to pay more than $15,000 when it's released. I don't want to pay $30,000 for it. Jeff might come to you and he'll say, hey, I'll give you $7,000 for the right to own that $15,000 strike price. In other words, he'll pay you $2,000 more than what you paid for the same right to own, which you own. I know that's a lot of owns, but you own the right to own. And now someone else will pay an even greater amount to own that same right that you purchased previously. This would result in a profit of $2,000. Say you sold that right that you purchased at $5,000 and you sold it to Jeff for $7,000. You have netted a profit of $2,000 without ever having to own the car. Sure, you miss out on owning the car, but you made $2,000 and you didn't really do anything. Now, that's the good side, right? But what about the bad side of that? What if the model car, the Tesla, starts getting negative press and there's rumors that they're going to slash the value from $15,000 down to $7,500. Now, people start jumping off the waiting list. Now that $5,000 premium you paid is surely going to go down because Jeff, he doesn't want to pay $5,000 for the right to own it at $15,000 when he'll just be able to buy it cheaper when it actually gets released. So now maybe he's only willing to pay $2,000 to end up on the waiting list. Okay? Now you're going to lose money. You're taking a risk. But the only risk you're taking is the premium you're paying. That's important to understand. So, again, just to keep things simple, I don't want to think of things in terms of trading options because that can be kind of a scary word. I want you to think in terms of trading premiums. And all premium is the cost of the option. And how is cost measured? Just like any other asset, like stocks or milk or eggs or clothes, it's measured in terms of price. Do not get scared of the terminology. Always put things in terms of price. It's much easier, much more simple, less scary, just easy way to do it. The way you make money off of options will be from profiting off increases in premium or the price of the premium rising. So the premium of an option can go from $2 to $4, just like we talked about the premium on the right to own the Tesla car could go from $5,000 to $7,000, just like a stock can go from $2 to $4. The only difference as far as I'm concerned is one is referred to as the price of an option, while the other is referred to as the price of a stock. But in the end, they are both prices, and we want them to go up because that's how we're going to make money. Price keeps things simple. Everyone knows it is better to own something that's rising in price. So always keep price in your mind. Don't think of premiums or options or, any of that scary stuff. They're all just prices at the end of the day. So, using our car example, the $5,000 paid for the right to own the $15,000 car at a later date is the premium. The price of the premium, $5,000 is what you paid, can fluctuate depending on different scenarios relevant to the car, which we just discussed, such as positive press or negative press. So let's put things in terms of stock talk. The stock I'm going to focus on is Apple because it is the most liquid, optionable stock there is. Now, I'm going to mention some of the prices of different Apple strike prices expiring at different dates. I just want to throw some numbers out there to start getting the stock numbers in your head and the prices of these options or premiums. Okay, but we're gonna go over the significant info relevant to this in another video. But right now we're still just going on some of the basics as what do you actually own when you own an option and what you need to understand about all of this. Okay? So as of today, October 5th, the right to own Apple stock on October 12th at $650 per share is trading at a price of $12.15. So the right to own, right? See that term a lot. On October 12th, that's the expiration date, at $650 per share, that's the strike price, is trading at $12.15. That's the premium. That is the price of the premium. The right to own Apple stock on October 12th at $670 per share is trading at a price of $4. The right to own Apple stock on November 17th at $700 per share is trading at a price of $12.30. Notice some of these differences. Start thinking about that, what it might mean. Okay? There are two main factors that are contributing to the different premium prices you see. One, how much time there is until expiration, October 12th versus November 17th. Two, the current price of Apple stock, $652.50, just about. For the options expiring October 12th, the premium is not nearly as great as the option expiring November 17th. Why? Well, let's consider the factors noted above. October 12th is only 5 trading days away versus November 17th being about 7 trading weeks away. So you have a lot more time, okay? As a result, the market doesn't have as much uncertainty in regards to Apple over the next 5 days as it does over the next 7 weeks. Therefore, the market will demand more premium for the next 7 weeks, right? More time, more uncertainty, more premium. This leads us to our first important notion regarding options. Greater uncertainty generally translates to greater premium paid. Greater uncertainty generally translates to greater premium paid. Right? Say you don't know where you're going to live 5 years from now. Versus you just bought a house and you see yourself living here for the next 10 years. You might save money differently not knowing where you're going to live 5 years from now than you would if you know where you're going to be living 5 years from now. One scenario accounts for a greater amount of uncertainty versus the other, which accounts for a good amount of certainty. So think about the market. With each passing day, each passing minute, each passing hour, the market can become more certain about the price of a stock on a future date because we are one day closer to that date. I can be more certain of what Apple's stock price will be on Monday based on its current price today, more so than I can of what Apple's stock price will be 3 months from now based on its current price today. So, for instance, I would maybe say, I'll bet you $50 that Apple stays above a certain price by Monday. Okay, I can be more sure about that bet. Okay, versus I'm not going to make that same bet months from now. I'm not going to say, I bet you Apple stays above price XYZ. I'm not going to bet that same $50 because I'm not as certain. The premiums are going to be different. Okay? What I'm willing to bet is going to be different because I can't be as certain because there is much more time involved. I'm going to want some protection. The way the market gets protection is it demands greater premium. Okay? So, think back to another analogy. Take basketball. If a basketball player scores 10 points in the first quarter of a game, you can become more certain that he will finish the game with 20 points or more. Right? He's got 10 points through the first quarter. All he's got to do is score another 10 points through 3 quarters. I feel pretty certain that that will happen. Vice versa, if through 3 quarters the same player only has 5 points, I can become pretty certain that he won't finish the game with 20 points or more. 3 quarters gone by, he's only got 5 points. He's not just all of a sudden going to rip for 15 points in the fourth quarter. If he does, it's going to catch me by surprise. Each minute of each quarter that passes, and each point scored or not scored, is going to affect my certainty as to how many total points I expect him to score. Premium of an option price works much in the same way, except it isn't a player scoring points that determines the level of certainty, but rather if a stock rising. Think of Monday as the first quarter and Friday as the fourth quarter. If I'm going to bet $30 that Apple goes to $670 next week, and on Monday it goes to $665, maybe now I'll be willing to bet $100 that it's going to get to $670 by the end of the week because it just scored 10 points in the first quarter. Okay? You see what I'm saying? If Apple makes a big move on Monday, we can become more certain of reaching that higher price by Friday. Just like if that player scores a lot of points in the first quarter, we can become more certain of a higher point total by the fourth quarter because now he's got 3 more quarters to score a lot of points. If Apple makes a big move on Monday, now it's got 4 more days to keep trekking higher. Think about the basketball player again. If he scores 10 points in the first quarter, he could either score 10 points in the second quarter and get 20 points. He could score 2 points, then 2 points, then 6 points. He could score 4 points, then 4 points, then 2 points. Okay, there's all types of ways he could get to 20, but he made the big move of 10 points. Apple's the same way. If you needed to make a $30 move and it makes $20 move on Monday, now it can make a $10 move on Tuesday, or it can make a $1 move, $1 move, $5 move, $3 move the following days. Okay? So that's how I want you guys to think about that. So now in the next video, I'm going to discuss the different scenarios for the price of Apple, which I kind of just touched on, and how we'd expect these scenarios to impact the premium of the options, specifically the ones expiring on October 12th. How do we expect the moves that the price of Apple stock is going to make, how might that move impact the price of the premium we are paying? And how can we trade that at a profit?